Hello to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk. I'm your host for this evening, Coach Kevin Bull Jones. And today we got a different flavor. We're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the upcoming Super Bowl, talk about recruiting going on with college and high school players. And I have a wonderful guest with me, a great colleague in the coaching field, and as well as you know him from his famous days as the nickname Slash, Kordell Stewart, quarterback and receiver back in those great days of the Pittsburgh Steelers, here to sit and talk some great football tonight. So if you like the show, please come on in to join. 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk. Kordell, good to talk to you. Good to see you. It's good to sit here and talk about some football tonight.
Kordell. Yes, it is, Coach. Yes, sir. Leading into this. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Coach.
Go ahead. Go ahead, because we're going to sit and talk about exactly what you and I have been talking about for so long. And I enjoy so much because you've been a part of this Super Bowl experience back in the 90s, in the mid-90s, playing against the Dallas Cowboys. You've been a part of all of this. So let's go ahead and start the show by talking about everything that goes into the preparation. And then let's talk about who's going to win this football
game. That's a two-part question there. I got two answers to give. One, let's start off with one. I'll say that the thing you have to get over as quick as you possibly can to get your feet on the ground to get going is the excitement of probably winning the toughest game of the year, which is the conference championship game. You hear it being said all the time, that is the toughest game because of the anxieties of knowing what you may be a part of if you win the game, which is the Super Bowl. And that's just one game that you just try to embrace that moment in time to be able to go out and accomplish something that, no other team, if you will, in that season has been able to accomplish but you. So it's just getting your feet on the ground after that conference championship game, dealing with the tickets from the family to all the extracurricular activities that are taking place that you won't have an opportunity to be a part of because you have curfew. But then as you're leading up to the game, you have the opportunity to change hotels because you're trying to get to this area that doesn't allow anything to be a distraction, if you will, to then all of a sudden getting prepared to play the game as if you're just coming off the road, going to the hotel that you normally will go to, spend a night there, and then get an opportunity to play the game. So with all that being said, now it's time to play the game. Whoo, that's a whole bunch. But it's a phenomenal thing, Coach, to be honest, to be a part of a moment like that. And it all becomes a blur, because, thinking back to Super Bowl 30 when we had a chance to play against the Cowboys in Tempe, Arizona, out in Arizona, as much as I remember everything, it happened so fast to the point where it's like you wish you could do it all over again to see if you can, slow everything down. But it happened so fast. And once it's over with, man, you just hope you come away with the win. And we didn't when we played against the Cowboys back then when I played with the Steelers. But great experience to go against primetime. Troy Aikman, one of the quarterbacks I love. Emmitt Smith, one of the great tailbacks in the game. And Moose Johnson, who led the way for Emmitt Smith when coming down and running football between the tackles. So great run, great opportunity, something I'll never forget, but yet we get a chance to see it again this upcoming week.
And that leads me, Kordell, as we talk so much at football practice, and it's been a pleasure being with you on the sidelines, dealing with coaching these young men on the football field on the high school level here in the Metro Atlanta area. But let's talk about the big game coming up. And you and I have conversations that a lot of times people just look at us sound like two coaches just going at it, talking about the pros and the cons. But let me ask you this.
Right.
The Kansas City Chiefs, Tyreek Hill, had over 200, almost 300 yards receiving, 13 catches, 3 touchdowns on November 29th when Tampa Bay and KC faced each other. Okay, a game that KC jumped out 17-0. Okay, Mahomes threw for over 400 yards, close to 500 yards in passing yards. You know, he was able to amass all this and jump out quick. On the other hand, the Buccaneers slowly pecked away, came back, played some stout defense second half, gave up only one touchdown. Brady threw a couple of touchdown passes. Mike Evans had a good game. And in the midst of that game, everybody's saying, well, the KC's going to run away with the Super Bowl. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, we know both of them. Well, we know both of them will be there at the game. That's what I know for sure is going to happen. You have two teams on the field. They're in Tampa, first time in the history of the game that the team that's hosting the game, it's in their city. It's never been done before. It's going to be extremely exciting. But you know, it's more than who's going to win and lose, because it's strategies, right? It's the brilliance of a Bruce Arians against an Andy Reid, someone who we know, when given a lot of time, Andy Reid, coming off of a bye week, you know, he's one of the most winning coaches, arguably in the history of the game, when coming off of having free time. So when thinking about that, then you look at the stars at quarterback. We're looking at, you can call him the GOAT right now, and he's actually playing the game, and Tom Brady. And you have the kid. You know, I guess they call the baby ghost, they call them kids, right? And you have that in Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And so, you know, you have arguably the father of it all right now still in the game, and the kid coming up that we could arguably say is going to take over this league by storm if he stays healthy. It's going to be a great matchup. I think that defense they have in Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a stout defense, especially up front. The secondary is a little suspect, but with the pressure with Jason Pierre-Paul and the pressure that he puts up front to be put on the quarterbacks to make sure that Patrick Mahomes is not sitting in a comfortable position, I think will, you know, give some of the secondary play the opportunity to recover. But yet, you know, then you have an offense with Tom Brady going against that defense in Kansas City, led by Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary, the Honey Badgers. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I just think whoever can get their feet on the ground the quickest, because now Tampa has a running game with Leonard Fournette, something we hadn't seen early in the year, to take some of the pressure off of Tom, trying to throw those vertical balls. Now you see he's going back to the Patriots way, so to speak, now with the Buccaneers, with this, you know, this tight formation, more tight ends, bunch formations that are tight, you know, to make you have to figure out what's going on, and dinking and dunking up and down the field. So if I had to choose a team that would win, I'll wait till the latter part of the show to tell you. How about that?
I knew you was going. I felt that coming. You know, we talking AM workouts. You know, we sit there. We can talk about. I knew that was coming. So here's to elaborate on what you just said. Here's some things that in my research, just putting it together. You know me. I get on the board and start drawing up stuff, and you know, and I got to put stuff up on the board and make it make sense to me. Tampa Bay, number one in the NFL in rush defense. Okay, average, giving up 80 yards a game on average. Tampa Bay, ranked number 21 in the NFL, again, rushing defense, giving up 122 yards a game. I was about to say New England, so I'm thinking just like you. That Tampa Bay is more driving to that ground and pound, and then play action and hurt your feelings. Now, Tampa Bay with Fournette and Jones, that 1-2 tandem of ground and pound, you know, maybe they take that air out the football. Maybe they ground and pound, play action, and then they get it to those guys that they need to. KC's got a problem stopping the run. And as I was, you know, when we were talking about it, I said that Buffalo didn't do a good job of running the football. Instead, they used Josh Allen to run the football, which I thought was crazy, because you're putting your big quarterback in a terrible situation where he could take some hits. So the run, that ground and pound that Buffalo should have brought to the table, that maybe would have helped. I say maybe, you know, against the KC defense. It didn't happen, but Tampa Bay has it. So if Tampa Bay has that ground and pound, now we're looking at a situation where, okay, can we get in the end zone? Okay, Tampa Bay's defense only gave up 10 rushing touchdowns. KC gave up 14. So when you look at it, pass defense wise, Tampa Bay was number 5 in the NFL, 5th ranked defense, and KC was number 19. When they talk about sacks, Tampa Bay had 48 sacks on the season. They had 132 hits on the quarterback, Kordell. KC only had 32 sacks and 99 hits on the quarterback. And plus, Eric Fisher, the starting left tackle for KC, is not playing. And I'm a Mahomes fan, but when I look at those intangibles of what we're looking at for a game, I think we both would agree it's hard to stop Tyreek Hill. But from what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy do, and I said it, what Eric Bieniemy does, because let's give some kudos to what he does, because I have a problem with I just want to hear all of those coaches get the credit that they deserve for what they're doing on the field. I think that Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid are going to have a tough task dealing with that rush coming off the edge, because quarterback hits are quarterback hits. And my favorite motto is make them say ouch. We want to touch from my defensive philosophy. So what do you think KC is going to try to do to offset the fact that they don't have Fisher? Okay. And they're going to, yes, they can throw it deep, but now without Fisher in the game, and that offensive line is going to have to hold up. What do you think they're going to do to make way against Tampa Bay?
Well, I think the Band-Aid to that wound, if you will, right, with your tackle being out for Kansas City, is number 15. He's the Band-Aid to all the problems. I mean, we go back to last season postseason game when they played against the Houston Texans in Kansas City. You saw a Houston Texans team jump up 24-0, pretty much midway to the second quarter. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at 27, 24 unanswered points. 24 unanswered points just in the second quarter alone. And then they give you another 13 in the third quarter. Before you know it, 3 minutes into the third quarter, I mean, the game is pretty much out of control. And everyone thought Houston was on their way to the divisional championship game, right? And so what you see with this Kansas City Chiefs team with 1-5 at the helm, nothing can stop them. I mean, if there's time on the clock, it benefits them. So I remember at one point in time, Steve Young mentioned when playing against the Cowboys, you remember those battles back in the 90s when the Cowboys used to play against the 49ers all the time? At first, it was Joe Montana, and then Steve Young came in and took over. One thing he said was, when you're playing in games like this, the worst thing you can do is kick field goals only. You have to score touchdowns. And if you're a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that we've seen over the last 4 to 6 weeks, been able to run the ball between the tackles and control the game with scoring touchdowns, they're not going to be able to get away with just kicking field goals and have the score be 10-0 or 10-3. They're going to have to score literally every single time they have the opportunity to touch the ball. Does that sound impossible? It does. But in order for them to win, knowing the firepower that Kansas City has because of 1-5, and that's Patrick Mahomes, you're going to find yourself having to do something like that. So with all the stats you just gave, I think that's great for the buildup of what's going to take place. But and I know when it comes down to the whistle blowing, it's a matter of who can get their feet on the ground the quickest in a game such as this one, because it goes by so fast. The longest time that you have in this game to even think about anything is at halftime, because at a halftime show, you're sitting there probably for extra 30 minutes longer. So I like this game because it's going to cause Eric Bieniemy to have to call a game that causes them to maybe have to control the game. And I think EB's been doing a great job this year, calling the plays, being creative, making plays. But in order for these plays to work, you have to have some great players on the football field. And Eric Bieniemy right now with his offense and how he's calling these plays, I think has been on a good side of fortune because of all of the talent that he has. I mean, we're not even talking about Travis Kelce yet. Everything to me goes through the tight end, Travis Kelce. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tyreek Hill is a beast, but I think when you get those chunk yards of let's just say 8, you get these matchup issues with these linebackers trying to handle such an athlete like a Travis Kelce, who's basically a thicker version of a wide receiver playing a tight end position, coming out of the backfield, that underhand little toss pass, that they create on the goal line. I mean, Eric Bieniemy has done a great job teaming up, if you will, with Andy Reid. Andy Reid's letting him do his thing. I guess you can hear people all the time when I'm watching these games. They keep talking about Andy Reid. Allow Eric Bieniemy to have his just due when it comes down to doing what he's doing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, he's following and he's sitting next to a guy that's considered as an offensive guru, but Eric Bieniemy had the opportunity to learn from one of the best, if not the best, play callers in the game. And so if Eric Bieniemy wasn't doing his job, Andy Reid's not going to sacrifice the betterment of the team and the success of the team to give it to, any coach for that matter, to say, I want him to get his credit because, he's a minority coach and he just, no, this guy's calling the plays. I talked to EB on the phone at one point in time, every week on Zoom with a couple of our buddies from CU. And I asked him that question. And the conversation literally went like this. Hey, man, just like any other offensive coordinator, as you do with our offensive coordinator at school in North Atlanta, you come up with something that you've thought about during the off time, watching film, coming up with a game plan. You present it to him. He comes back with his exchange of dialogue and what he anticipates seeing happen and try to connect it with what we're trying to do on offense so that we can mesh really well as we go out. It's not saying that you need to per se okay from him, but yeah, you want to make sure we're on the same page. And I think that's what they have there with EB and Coach Andy Reid at the helm doing this thing. So they have a great nucleus of plays, let alone players on this team in Kansas City. It's just the experience of number 12 on the other side. I mean, this guy's going into his 10th Super Bowl. He's won 6 of them already. He has a chance to get 7. And of the last 9 years that this team has been playing in Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
right,
8 straight of them, they hadn't gone to the postseason. And all of a sudden, he comes from New England and immediately make an impact in the sense of how they think, how the philosophy when it comes to the game of football is approached. And now, because if you read Coach Bruce Arians has a belief in Tom Brady, you see now the players and the conversation on the coaching staff being echoed that I'm just allowing Tom to be himself and allow these guys to believe in him. And when that happens, I think we've seen this team beat Drew Brees, arguably one of the greatest players to ever play the game, and the one that everyone loves most, and I question it, in Aaron Rodgers, because the times that he had opportunity to close the deal in Green Bay, home field advantage, he has not done it. So while, yes, I get it, he's with the Green Bay Packers, he's done some great things, but he hasn't closed the deal as many times as he should based on the times that he showed up in those NFC Championship games. But I think it's a testament to number 12, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the guys on that defense that relentless, and you can see that they're playing really well together. And I honestly, I might have to put on a suit to watch this game because, it might be some church going on watching this thing. Because you're gonna have arguably two of the best to ever do it. I think the jury is still off of Patrick Mahomes, but the plight that he's on right now, he's for sure leading in that direction.
And it's funny you mentioned that because in looking at the game, I look at the coordinators. Being from the defensive coordinator point of view, and how do you stop somebody and deciding, pick your poison. Are you going to stop the run? Or are you going to stop the pass? Well, it's obvious that in this situation, what's going to help? Where's the kryptonite? And where are things that's going to help to be successful? And watching Tom Brady, and I was one of those non-believers that now I am a believer in TV. And number 12, to give him, you mentioned earlier, giving Andy Reid 2 weeks to get ready for a game. Well, you're giving Tom Brady 2 weeks to get ready for a game. And keep in mind that Willie Gay, one of the defensive stars for KC, is not going to play in the game. Unfortunately, he tore his meniscus, and you just hate that because he was in practice last week. But those things happen. They're part of injuries in the football period. But you look at, you're right, Matthews. You look at Breland at the corners, and you look at the things that Brady against Spagnuolo. They've had some history competing against each other. Okay, so Spagnuolo knows Brady's strengths, and Brady knows where the pressure's coming from. Okay, so that wisdom sets in, and it's miraculous because he can dump it down. I think it's safe to say that when it's time to pass the ball, Fournette is not that guy in pass protection. You know, he had a couple of boo-boos last week with that, but he's the guy to ground and pound along with Ronald Jones. So what's going to happen? You know, what's going to happen on the other end? Because Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, and I mean, you're familiar with both of those names so well, and their knowledge of the game, the credit that they deserve for what they're doing. Elaborate on that, because on that level, you know, when you see men in these positions as coordinators, African American men, being able to lead defense and offenses, you know, what does that magnitude have as far as what they're trying to get accomplished this weekend?
Oh, it's tremendous. It's unfortunate that because we're not behind the curtain when these conversations are being had with the owners. We don't. Only thing we can go off is what we see,
Right.
and most times than not, the perception is what you see, right? That there isn't enough minority coaches who are qualified in the National Football League to be head coaches, to where it makes you sometimes scratch your head. And it's taking coaches to come together, Leftwich, to Coach Bowles, the Eric Bieniemys, to come together, playing in a game such as this one to get the respect that they deserve. So the numbers are small. Of course, the numbers are small. So we're going to be able to see the magnitude of the lack, because of the lack of coaches and head coaches, black head coaches in the National Football League, because of the lack of numbers. I think once the numbers with these assistant coaches, these coordinators, then trickulates throughout the league, become head coaches, then you end up seeing, I think, a bigger number. I mean, let's be transparent. When it came to the Rooney Rule, Mike Tomlin, I mean, he was a beneficiary of all of that, right? Because you then have this rule in place, and then he gets to Pittsburgh, and I mean, he's just been winning over 10 plus years. And what can you say? He's going to what? 2 Super Bowls. He won one and he lost another one. So he's putting the work, and he's going to the playoff most of the time as a head coach there at Pittsburgh. So these guys are going to get their opportunities. Coach Bowles, he had his chance, I guess. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, with the Jets. So he had his opportunity. Byron Leftwich, he's young.
Yeah.
You know, had the opportunity to meet him. He was in Pittsburgh for a short stint. And he's going to get his opportunity. But, you know, it's inevitable. Just like when I played the game, the way I played it way back when in the 90s, it was just a matter of time. And then look at the game now. The quarterbacks are mobile. The quarterbacks are minorities. It's not even a conversation or debate anymore. I hate to have to talk about that, but it's something that needs to be identified because it's not the fault of the people that are talking about it. We're just bringing relevance to something that we see that looks a little different and a little strange, right? So sometimes a deaf ear and a blind eye can cause people to get a little frustrated at times. But we got the ears open and the eyes are open too as well, to where we see a lot of coaches in this league that are very worthy of becoming a head coach at these institutions. I just think the owners and the GMs need to wrap their head around it and get comfortable and know that everyone is qualified for an opportunity. The question becomes, are you going to allow them to lose respectfully to learn? Because you don't learn with winning. That's why we work. but we
Right.
learn from the adverse moments to then build on that, right? To where now the players then coach the coaches. Sometimes we have that
Right.
philosophy a little backwards, right? The
Right.
players teach the coaches how to coach so that then they can develop these players so that then once all of that can be in the right place, I think that's when things can elevate. But if you're not given that time because you're only given a 2-year stint, all right, or a 2.5-year stint, you're fired before you get through the third year, we'll never know. And then they get lost and get in the shuffle of just being an assistant coach again. And then
Right.
before you know it, it's like, I got to try to come back at this thing again. So, I think what we see taking place in Tampa is a real good example of if you give guys opportunity, as
Right.
Bruce Arians has done, you're going to have a chance to see it. Even the Andy Reids, even the team like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, Indianapolis Colts is given opportunities there too as well. The Oakland Raiders for a short stint, but we want guys that's going to have 5-year tenures, right? I don't care if people boo sometimes, right? Because how many coaches get booed in certain teams, and they're there for
Right.
3 or 4, maybe 5 years, right? So just give an opportunity. But you know what? We can't make excuses. If you lose, that's what happens. But you bring in the right staff. You have a plan. You know what you're doing. We don't want to make the color to be an excuse, but we don't want it to be a problem either. So if you can make that work the right way, and the right opportunity comes, because if I'm Eric Bieniemy, this is just me and you talking. Nobody else is listening to us, Coach. This is just me and you talking. And I think we've said this, and I like to say this again because we have a chance to have it float into the airways, right?
Right.
If I'm Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid is allowing me to do what I'm doing, and I have this quarterback, $500 million quarterback, if you will, 10 years, $500 million. I may be off base, but it's roundabout. That's where it is, right?
Yeah.
That means the salary cap won't really be an issue when it comes to that position because there can be a multitude of restruction that comes in play to alleviate some of that cap space, right?
Right.
And be able to give it to someone else. Why would I want to go somewhere with seeing how all coaches, if you will, are losing on a consistent basis, and that run may be 2 years? It may be 2.5 to 3 years. Look at Anthony Lynn with the Chargers. I mean, he was winning. He just wasn't winning good enough to stay around, but he got 3 years. Why would I want to leave Patrick Mahomes, Tariq Hill, Travis Kelce, Tyrann Mathieu? I mean, I'm going on with this list, right? Why would I really want to rush to go? I'm getting paid handsomely. The GM that's here came from Philadelphia, so he was with Andy Reid and also Eric Bieniemy in Philadelphia. Why do I want to leave a place such as this one, where, let's just say hypothetically speaking, Andy Reid leaves? Who's next in line to maybe have a chance to take over a helm? That I have a quarterback at number 15 that is my band-aid to all of my issues? I'm just saying, I don't know too much. I'm getting older now. I'm getting older. My hair's getting in the middle. I don't know too much. But I'm just having a hypothetical conversation with you, Coach. No one's listening but me and you. So
Right.
I'm just
Just me.
saying. So, I like to lay the land to where it's going. And, again, don't let that be, we don't want to play the role of a victim. And I say we as in coaches in general. We don't want to let the color make us feel like we're playing a victim, but we don't want that to be the problem either. So there's that's a balance here in this game, right? It's a balance because we don't want to make that be the excuse. So I like what I see with the coaches that are up and coming minority coaches. And they're going to get there. They're going to get their chances. You got to put in work. You got to prove your worth. And I think you do a good enough job. Your opportunity's going to come. It's just right now, it's not Bieniemy's time. But guess what? He's playing in the Super Bowl, and he has an opportunity to get another ring back-to-back years. And that's a heck of a resume, isn't it?
It's an amazing resume. And hats off, Kordell, to the NFL's owners that have hired general managers, the new general managers that have popped up in
Washington. Mm-hmm.
Washington, Detroit, Atlanta, Cleveland, So listen, it is great to see that the NFL can be an example of when people everybody gets a chance to be a part of that NFL logo and bring their part into the game. It's beautiful to watch it happen. Likewise, we're going to see it happen this Sunday. Along with the women coaches that are involved in coaching now and NFL level, and their opportunities to be a part, as well as the officials. So we do have some good things that are happening. It's a pleasure that you've had the chance to be on the end of, when I watch Lamar Jackson, I watch these quarterbacks run. Everybody wants to talk about that. You were doing that way back when and playing receiver. I mean, Lamar's not playing that. Neither is Mahomes and anybody else. But you had a special place in that you did both. And then to watch you navigate through feeding that knowledge to the high school kids, that's where I want to go next with this short time we have together, talking about high school football. And I keep saying this, and I mean it. Nobody knew, excuse me, nobody knew, as far as I'm concerned. I say it in front of everybody because it's just me and you talking again. The ability to have the experience that you had and bring it to the high school level, and what we have North Atlanta High School, and just be able to share. You watch a man's work, and that's what I did with you, and watch you work. Quarterbacks, drilling quarterbacks, as well as receivers, taking on two positions. Really, it's a joy to watch how that all happened. And I've been in Atlanta all my life coaching, and never knew that you were up on this end coaching, and to get you watch you maneuver through it. And I known I would have stole you earlier, and be able to be together. But it's just me and you talking. But this whole recruiting process and watching how this is going on. I sat down today and I got a chance, and one of the assistant coaches on our staff was talking about all of the people that are in the transfer portal, and I thought about it. I tried to even count them today, and I got tired of trying to count them. But I got up to 600, and I never got past receivers and running backs and quarterbacks. Now there's just 600 right there. Right. I didn't get the defensive line, offensive line, things like that. But so many kids, this whole line of recruiting, where we are because of the pandemic. Share your thoughts, because you as well have a special interest in this. I want you to elaborate on that.
Yeah. Well, it's tough times right now. Let's be transparent. They extended the signing day to August 1st of this year because of some schools that are having a chance to play their season during the springtime. That goes to show you how that's working, right? We have football being played during the springtime. And I don't mean as in spring ball, I mean as in the season this spring. But this COVID has, season. So this COVID-19 and this pandemic has really put a thorn in the ribs of this process.
Right.
And it's hurting the class of 2021 and potentially 2022. It just doesn't stop right here. And just think about the JUCOs to the prep schools. I mean, there's going to be an overflow of kids, and sometimes prefer walk-ons to some kids who are fortunate to be in that first wave of recruits getting scholarships, and which was in December, December 15th to the 18th, to where it starts on the 3rd this month and it pushed all the way to August 1st. And my thing is this should be a lesson, I think, to a lot of coaches when it comes to their kids getting an opportunity to get into this fight of getting an opportunity to get a scholarship. One thing I know for sure, in order for these kids to get the chance, we as coaches, when asking these kids to show up as we have it, 6:15 in the morning to work out, we need you to have good grades. Then we would practice later that day. I mean, and then having the parents involved as father figures from afar, because they become our kids and they're our responsibility, right? If we're asking them to give their time, it's our responsibility to make sure they're good, but make sure that we get them jump started to be a part of this run of getting scholarships. And we can't wait till the last minute, because sometimes you get wait for the last minute, then you're behind the 8 ball. And then now we have COVID, right? So,
Right.
you know, you just want to make sure that you're fighting for the right reasons of for these kids, because this is special times for these kids right now. I don't want to hear this stuff about kids not good enough. I mean, that's why we develop them. You know,
That's right.
this is times where parents that put all this money and time into this, some who have to pay dues, other schools don't do it. You know, these kids deserve opportunity. There's a space for everyone. The question is, how long is your outreach to help these kids? And we want, you know, sometimes we can make excuses for reasons why, but if you're really entrenched into what you're doing, it becomes personal when the kids around you that you're coaching gets an opportunity to go off and have a better life for themselves, right? To
Right.
get them out in the world and let them learn as young men, to go to school and let mommy and daddy say, hey,
Right.
man, we put in some work. Look at the benefits to this stuff, right? So it's
Right.
tough times right now, and you know, I have my son in the game, you know, and I'm reaching out to those that I know to try to help him, and because he's done a phenomenal job. You saw it. You worked with the kid. He had a chance to play in this Region 4, 6A football, and play some of the best talent against some of the best talent that's going to Georgia Tech and, you know, Central Michigan to Illinois and Clemson and LSU and so on.
Right.
So we could just keep going on and on. And when seeing kids like that play, you know, it's a responsibility to get that kid in position to have something. Now, I'm not saying it because he's my kid. I'm saying it because of the work that he put into it. You know,
Right.
during the COVID was a big piece to some of these kids' success this year. Some kids had a gym. Some kids had to take some of the information we sent via email because we had to respect the parents that didn't want their kids to go outside. So this was a concoction of a whole bunch of stuff going on that was out of our control, to where we wish our kids could have come back as in shape that they normally would have coming out of the spring. But we made it work. And truthfully, Coach, you know, everybody played well. I mean, from your guys in the secondary and to the entire defense to our offense with the kids that we had starting for the first time, and your heart goes out to them because, you know, there was 2 games we lost by a total of 6 points, and you say to yourself, you win those games, it's a whole different feeling running around the campus, right? As
Right.
coaches, not as the fan base, but as coaches, because everybody leads everything onto the COVID thing. But, you know, to circle back to the recruiting side, those moments in time in our sports lives around the world has been affected by this, and you still are trying to help these kids to get opportunities to go to school. Coach All, our head coach, Jamie All, he's doing a great job of trying to
Yes.
facilitate this thing the best he can, with your outreach that you have as well as mine, trying to collaborate to make this thing work for our kids. And when you don't get responses from these people, okay, my blood pressure goes high. My hair follicles start closing up. I start losing hair. You know, but you know, this is a time where, you know, again, they pushing it back to August 1st, extending the dead time to give these kids an opportunity to get scholarship. Basically, if you go August 1st, that means you didn't even go to camp if you get something on July 30th to 31st.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get scholarship, then you're not even going to camp. So what did they do? Gray shirt you? Let you stay a gray shirt all the way up until December, and then all of a sudden they let you become active and be a part of everything come December. So it's been a huge concoction of crazy stuff going on, but you know, we made it through it. Our kids were safe. Our coaching staff was safe. It taught us, I think, us all a lot
Yes.
on how to deal with this process, right? You've been in it 20 plus years.
Yes.
Far as coaching is concerned, if you combine my time with coaching and playing, it's close to the same, but the coaching side is a whole different ball of wax for me. But only thing you can do is put faith in the system and the work that's been put in there. And everybody around the country is affected by this. For those kids that got in early, congratulations to them. There still will be more kids that will get in. It's just being patient and allowing this thing to subside, if you will, and and hopefully those kids who are on the bubble, which your nephew, as you call him, my son, is on that bubble of an opportunity, and a few of our other kids are on the bubble
Right.
too of having a chance to get something. It's nerve wracking, but I think being patient is a big thing right now, and it's really nothing we can do but just wait and whatever presents itself. We as coaches at North Atlanta, one of our kids go, two of our kids go, all of our kids go.
Right.
That's going to be a stamp on what we've done as coaches, but most importantly, the hard work that was put in by that particular kid, and how they were capable of staying the course because of all of this, and end up being benefiting on the back end because of that.
I couldn't agree with you more. And there's so much. I wish we had more time to because it's a sensitive subject to me, being in high school football for so long, and then sharing that time with you, and watching. As I always mention you all the time, I appreciate what you do, and the time. It's time and energy. It's a piece of you put in the kids, and then it's not just your kid. It's all these kids. And that's what it's all about. Those coaches that are transformational coaches, not the transactional, with the transformational coaches where it's about the kid, is the beautiful part of coaching high school football. And it's still up to us, even through this crazy pandemic, to maneuver through this craziness, as well as the college coaches. They have it. I spoke to several coaches yesterday evening that are FCS coaches, and they clearly they're glad that they're playing in March, but they don't know what they're walking into, the Pandora's box, and what that leads up to for the FCS national championship game, and possibly recruits that they might have leaving, might have staying, whatever the case may be. And then they got to turn around and get ready for August. And so now they got a short time to deal with. So heaven forbid, knock on wood, they don't have any major injuries. So this whole maze is quite amazing. And I'm glad I got a chance to, me and you sitting, we talk about it till the sun comes up and the sun goes down. But to be able to get on 100 yards of football sports talk, I appreciate your experience and your guidance. There's some things that you leave with kids that sometimes I hear it and it resounds. And I think that these kids sometimes they hear it and then they're learning how to take it back to them and let it grow on them. So I watch that with you, and the gift that you give, that's what's important to me. We as men try to give kids these giving, and brother, you've done a heck of a job of doing that. I appreciate being with you and glad to know you. And like I said, I wish I had found out you were coaching at Metro Atlanta a little earlier. I would have stole you earlier. But on that note, on this final thoughts, give me your final thoughts before we go on the score of the game. Who's going to win?
Wow, you want me to give you a score too? I think over under. I give you over 50 points for sure. Over 50 points. I'll give you a score of like I'll go 35, 35, 30, 35, 31. I give you 35, 31. To be continued. No, I'm gonna go.
The producer, the producer, Jeremiah Long. What'd you say, Tampa Bay? Did you say Tampa Bay?
I said Tampa Bay, yes, sir. 35-31 Tampa.
Okay, here's my score. I'm going 37-35 Tampa. It's going to be an awesome game. And once again, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We've enjoyed you. And folks that are listening and watching at home, if you enjoyed the show, we're glad that you spent some time with us. We wanted to roll our sleeves up and just get down to the nitty-gritty and talk some NFL, some high school predictions, coaches, you name it. And we thank you so much for watching 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk. Have a great evening.